My friend went missing at the lake. The bucket beside the counter was full the next morning. We arrived at the lake in the late afternoon, just as the sun dipped low enough to turn the water a beautiful, orange color. It was quiet, a bit too quiet for a place that claimed to be in peak season. The bait and tackle shop, really more of a general store, was the first thing you saw when entering the main strip. It stood right in front of the water like a gatekeeper, blocking the best view of the lake. You had to walk around it to get to the docks, which me and my girlfriend, Jessica, found strange. You'd think the town would have moved that ugly thing by now. It's a mood killer. I didn't answer, just shrugged, and gave her a nod of agreement. We parked beside the shop and stepped out. A few other tourists were walking around the cabins, dragging coolers and folding chairs with them. The locals were bizarre as well. They gave us a look of silent disapproval, like they'd had too many tourists already. And it's not like the place was crowded, maybe 15 of us in total, if that. A rusted sign above the shop read, "Hallows End Bait and Rentals." Inside, the air was cooler, but filled with the smell of preserved fish, which made Jack gag. Damn, this is horrid. Who can live like this? As soon as I saw the shopkeeper open a door from behind a counter, storage, I assumed, I shushed my friend and turned to the clerk. He looked to be in his late 50s, balding, eyes very pale, and his expression resembled that of a man who hadn't slept well in decades. "You here for cabin 6? He asked, looking at a piece of paper in front of him. I nodded. Yeah, we booked online. He crossed something out on the paper, then slid a key across the counter. Back lot. Third one down. No loud music after dark, and don't swim at night. By then, Jack had figured out the source of the smell, a white, plastic bucket that was placed next to the counter. Before he could approach, the man swiftly stepped over and moved it aside. Jack snorted. "What the hell do you keep in that thing?" The shopkeeper, however, didn't find it funny. He looked back at me and, a bit embarrassed, I apologized for my friend's weird sense of humor. Outside, Jack kept going, said the guy looked like the type whose wife left 15 years ago and took everything. But when I turned to glance back at the shop, he was still standing behind the counter, watching us through the window and smiling. The cabin was decent. Better than expected, actually. 2 bedrooms, a stocked fridge, and a back deck facing the lake. From there, you could almost forget the ugly shop blocking the main view. I won't lie to you, the shopkeeper made me really uncomfortable. I've met a lot of grumpy people in my life, but he was bizarre. The way he watched us after we left didn't sit right with me. But still, Jessica had been looking forward to this trip for months now, and I didn't want to ruin it. That night, we grilled outside. And apart from the leaves rustling and the fire burning, it was unnaturally quiet. "This place is dead," Jack said between mouthfuls. "You'd think a place like this would have more people fishing. Or at least some drunks shouting across the lake." I nodded. "Maybe the locals don't like fishing that much." He raised an eyebrow. "Sorry, did you see the name of the shop? The bait part of it?" He was right, though. The shop had everything a fisher could ask for, things I can't name, as I don't like fishing. Later, as we sat by the fire pit, Jessica curled up next to me and asked what was bothering me. I said it was nothing, but she didn't buy it, she never does. "I know that look," she continued. "You're doing that thing where your brain won't shut up." If only she knew. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, and my mind kept telling me to leave this place and go somewhere, anywhere, else. Before I could answer, Jack stood up and went inside. Said he'd had too many beers and wanted to beat us to the shower. I stayed out with her for a little while longer, watching the moon's reflection shift gently on the lake. In this place, it was the only thing that felt genuine. Then I saw movement near the shop. A figure, the shopkeeper, I realized fast, was walking to the front door with a bucket in his hand. Same white, plastic one from earlier. I watched as he disappeared around the side of the building. It seemed normal, although my mind couldn't help but wonder, where was he going? What's inside that bucket? Eventually, we went inside too. Jack was already in bed, snoring the night away. As I brushed my teeth, I glanced out the small bathroom window facing the shop. The lights were still on, but I couldn't see anyone inside. I wondered whether the shopkeeper lived there. It looked too small for a house. Though some people can manage with nothing but a bed and bathroom. The night was quiet, but I couldn't sleep well. Every creak of the cabin made me tense, and whenever I finally drifted off, I was awoken by the wind outside. We all woke up late the next morning, and by the time we got dressed and ready for a day full of adventure, the sun was already bright outside. Jessica made coffee while Jack complained about how uncomfortable the cabin mattress had been. We planned to take a rental boat that afternoon, maybe fish a little for the hell of it, although none of us knew how to. Jessica had printed out a map of the area online, and we circled a few small coves on the lake we wanted to check out. Jack stepped out first to get some air while me and Jessica cleaned up and got ready. But after 15 minutes, he still hadn't come back. At first, we didn't think much of it. He probably visited the shop to get some snacks or wanted to visit the girl from cabin 3, she smiled at him the night before, and he wouldn't have let that go. But then half an hour passed. And then another. Jessica started calling his name around the cabins, while I asked the couple in cabin 2 if they'd seen him. Nothing. I finally decided to check the shop. Inside, the shopkeeper stood behind the counter again, exactly as we'd seen him before, like he hadn't moved since yesterday. "Hey," I said, "have you seen our friend? You know, tall, buzz-cut, wearing a black hoodie?" He looked up slowly. "You mean the loud one?" His question caught me off guard, but I guess it wasn't far from the truth. "Was he going out on the lake?" he added. I shook my head. "No, not without us." He paused, then said, "People wander off sometimes. There's an old trail near the south of the lake. Locals say it's a nice hike, but it's easy to get turned around if you're not paying attention." I didn't like the way he said that. He was too calm, like it happened frequently. Jessica arrived shortly after, clearly frustrated. She asked him the same question, and he just repeated himself, word for word, like it was a script. Then, as we were leaving, I caught a glimpse of the same white plastic bucket tucked next to the counter. This time, the lid was off and something inside shimmered, wet and dark red. And it smelled horrible. Much worse than when we first got here. The shopkeeper caught me looking and stepped in front of it casually. "Don't worry," he said. "I'm sure your friend will turn up. If he doesn't appear by the evening, come back and we'll sort it out." Night came, but Jack still didn't turn up. Jessica was restless, pacing inside the cabin, calling his name out the back door every half hour. We argued, briefly, about whether to leave and get help. But I reminded her of what the shopkeeper said. And I decided it was time to go back. Just after 9 p.m., I told Jessica I'd head out and find him with the shopkeeper. She didn't want me going alone, but I promised I'd be back in 20 minutes. The main strip was silent, lit only by a few yellow lights thanks to the cabins. I was almost sure there were fewer of us now. Cabin 3 and 4 had packed up and left that afternoon. The front door of the shop was open. Inside, it looked the same shelves and counter. But the shopkeeper wasn't there. "Hello?" I called out, but nothing reacted. The place didn't feel empty, though. I heard some type of rhythmic clicking coming from the door behind the counter. I assumed the shopkeeper was busy with something, but he hadn't answered, and since it was ajar, I assumed it was fine to go inside. I wish I hadn't. Instead of a storage room, there was a stairwell, leading down. Rough wooden steps, creaking under my every step. A light buzzed at the bottom, flickering as I approached it. The stairwell ended in concrete. The flickering light above me barely reached the end of the basement, and for a second, I thought I was alone. Then I heard it. A splash, from behind me. It was silent, but in the silence anything was audible. I stepped forward, and the room opened into something far bigger than the shop should have allowed. Pipes ran along the ceiling and the walls, hissing with pressure. My eyes finally adjusted to the dark, and in front of me there was a pool. It was set into the ground, and was around 20 feet from one side to the other. But this wasn't for swimming. There were no ladders, no lights. Only a large grate at the bottom, where the lake must have flowed in from beneath. At the end, the water gently moved, like something had moved inside it. I took another step, and something tangled around my hair, threads. Long, white threads stretched across the far wall, and around me. It became denser the further I went. Webbing. Something hissed from behind me. From the far edge of the pool, the direction I came from, something rose. First, I saw the eyes, dozens of them, all pointed in different directions. Then the legs. At first, there were 2. Then 4. Then 8. Then I lost count, but imagine a spider that fused with another spider, combining their assets. Its abdomen pulsed with tension, and its body clicked with every sudden movement. It started crawling, up the wall, over the pipework. Moving faster than anything that large had a right to move. I staggered back and nearly tripped, pulling threads with me as I backed towards the end. The web didn't snap, and the creature shifted. It knew where I was now. Its head twitched toward me, and then it moved. It dropped from the wall, landing with a wet thud. It skittered toward me, its legs moving with impossible precision. I bolted in the only direction I could, straight into the far wall. I could hear the moisture it left behind, a sick, dragging sound that grew louder as it caught up with me. I reached the wall. The skittering stopped, but I didn't dare turn around. I blinked repeatedly, pinching myself, trying to escape this nightmare. Why did it stop? Why don't I hear it anymore? A voice called down. That's enough. I recognized it. It was the shopkeeper. I turned around, never thought I'd be so happy to see him. The creature was a few inches away. I could see the shimmer in its many eyes, the twitch of its joints. But it didn't move. Slowly, it backed away from me. It crept back into the night, while the shopkeeper showed himself to me, with the same bucket in his hand. She's not hungry tonight, he said flatly. But she will be. And I won't be around for much longer. He approached one slow step at a time, and set the bucket down beside the pool. I didn't say anything back. I was left speechless, my fear still stuck in my throat. The shopkeeper let out a long, tired breath. I don't know where they found her. I don't know what she is. I just do my job. He looked down at the water like it was sacred. She came from the lake, apparently. Or she was always part of it. Doesn't matter now, does it? The order brought her back here years ago, and said she was safer if confined. That the disappearances wouldn't be my responsibility, they'd solve it. He pointed toward the pipes overhead. This whole shop was built around her. The basement feeds into the lake. My voice finally cracked out. Why are you telling me all this? He didn't answer at first, and just kept staring at the water. I've been doing this longer than you've been alive, kid. I was a backup for the last guy. But I'm not going to make it through another season. I've already told them. Told them what? He finally looked at me for the first time he came down here. That you'd seen her. That you went inside the basement. And that meant you either had to die. He gestured slowly to the water. Or stay. My heart dropped. You lured me down here. He shrugged. I didn't do anything. You were curious. He stepped toward me again. Don't worry. They'll clean up the loose ends. Your family will get a call. Your girlfriend will be sent home. They'll probably tell her you left. Everything will be fine. I stayed still, eyes on the water. The ripples had finally stopped, but now I knew there was something beneath the surface. You'll learn how to feed her. How to listen when she gets restless. How to keep the shop running, same as I did. He turned without another word and headed for the steps. I'll stay another day. Maybe two. Just to show you the ropes. After that. He didn't finish the sentence. Just climbed up into the dark, one slow step at a time. Anyway. It's been 3 months since then. Jessica never came back. I watched from the window the morning she left. She waited outside the cabin for nearly an hour before one of the, according to Mark, the shopkeeper, order vans pulled up. I don't know what they told her, but she cried into her sleep and disappeared with the van. The shop is mine now. Or, I guess, I'm part of it. Every new week or so, a new tourist wanders in, and I hand out keys like nothing's wrong. No one asks questions. The ones who stay long enough to see something, well, I usually don't see them again. They disappear, and the bucket fills up with something wet and dark red. Just like the morning Jack disappeared. The basement stays locked, mostly. She doesn't like being watched. But I go down when I have to, I bring the bucket, I check the threads. I even clean the place once in a while. I think she's starting to recognize me. They send deliveries sometimes, sealed crates, no paperwork. I'm not sure what's inside them, I don't dare open them. I just carry them down. I fear one day the crate will arrive late, and she'll grow restless. I just hope, by then, she still remembers the difference between the bucket and me.